The other night, I had dinner with Bob, a fan and supporter of this podcast. Bob's a big Texan who flew tankers in Vietnam. You know, those huge airplanes that refuel other planes in midair. Bob was at the fall of Saigon, flying around overhead. That's a historic moment, if there ever was one. He said he's landed a tanker at almost every airport in Asia, at least any airport with a long enough runway. Later on, he was a contractor in Iraq in 2003. Over calamares a la romana and pimientos del padrón, he complimented me on my last few podcast episodes. At that moment, I couldn't even remember what they were about. Maybe American refugees or something. Thanks, I said. I'm having trouble coming up with things to write about that aren't political. If I wanted to write about politics, of course, I could. There are infinite variations on the two big themes in the news these last couple of years. On the one hand, there's Europeans are a bunch of entitled crybabies who want everything handed to them. On the other, there's Donald Trump does or says something that pisses off most of the planet. But I've already written about both of those topics many times, and I also have several articles that combine the two. Donald Trump pisses off European crybabies, etc. It's honestly gotten a little stale with the repetition. But how do I avoid politics in a world run by clickbait and addictive algorithms? I guess I'll just take a walk. Maybe something outside will inspire me. Hey everybody, it's Daniel. Welcome back to Spain to Go, the best podcast in the entire multiverse for all things Spain. This is episode 136, and I'm calling it Holy Thursday, Golden Calves, and God-Shaped Holes. Shout out today to Bob, who bought me dinner the other night, and who is generally an interesting guy to talk to. This was my second time meeting Bob, because he has also been in Barcelona before. Bob has also donated to the podcast on multiple occasions in the past. You can be our next donor or even our next multi-donor. If you head over to expatmadrid.com/donate, you can donate anything from 10 euros on up to however much you want. expatmadrid.com/donate. If you've donated before, don't worry. Literally the only thing better than donating to this podcast once is donating multiple times. I'll give you a shout out in the next podcast. I always do a shout out segment at this point in my episodes. So expatmadrid.com/donate, expatmadrid.com/donate. Thank you very much. Back to the topic of today's episode. I was just avoiding politics by going outside. That's why this morning I'm outside early. I'm avoiding politics by submerging myself in the urban environment. Across from my house, there's a little bar that I notice has rebranded again. This time it's got a Chinese name. The decline of typical Spanish bars is a topic I used to worry about back when I was going to bars. But here in my working class area of Barcelona, typical Spanish bars are alive and well. They're just owned by Chinese people who add a couple of dumpling and noodle dishes to the menu and otherwise carry on. A lot of these places look like they haven't been updated since the death of Franco. They've got a few dusty bottles of brandy and ponche up on a shelf, a slot machine in the corner, and a few drunk regulars sitting around at all hours. Most of the people running businesses in my area seem to be immigrants. Across from the Chinese bar is another Chinese bar, which is next to a Dominican barber shop, which is next to an Argentinian bakery with a big cardboard cutout of Messi in the door. Most of the fruterias are Pakistani or Bangladeshi or Chinese. The nicer cafes are Argentinian. My butcher at the market recently retired and sold the stall to a Latin lady and her son. Some people complain about gentrification, but none of this is particularly glamorous. Others complain about how mass migration is changing Spain. Anyway, I'm not going to get political today. The Carrefour supermarket down the street has steak for 18 euros a kilo, which is something I haven't seen since the 2010s. I buy a couple of packs and take them back to the house. Time to do some marketing. My online English teaching business has earned me a pretty good living for more than 10 years, but I'm a bit tired of doing it. Those are the perils of escaping the rat race. Spending all my time on the internet sounded like fun back in 2012 or so. When I quit my day job to focus on the online business back in 2015, I felt like I was winning, but now I'm having a whole identity crisis about it. I made a big effort when I was younger trying to avoid the 9 to 5. Instead, I moved to Spain and ended up working 9 to 9 with odd breaks throughout the day and a lot of transportation from one class to another. When I got sick of that and of earning 11 euros an hour, I built an online business. But in order to succeed, I had to spend a decade hunched over a laptop screen, which was basically what I had been trying to avoid in the first place when I moved to Spain. In reality, all I want to do is go outside. Maybe I should have been a farmer or a mailman. After a couple of hours flogging my online courses to English learners in Spain and Latin America, I'm ready for a break. I throw my shorts and a clean t-shirt in a backpack and head for the gym. Back out on the street, one of the regulars at the Chinese bar looks to be British. I see him there every day, puffy and red-faced, with a beer in front of him. I've never talked to him, but occasionally our eyes meet as I walk by, and there's a flicker of recognition. My wife Morena calls him doppelganger, even though we don't technically look alike. I don't know who he is or what he does other than drink. Does he have a job? Is he living off passive income? Maybe he's an English teacher. All I know is that he's there to remind me of the life I escaped from when I stopped drinking. When I first got sober, I suddenly had a lot of free time. I started writing longer, more thoughtful articles on the blog, but that's just a few hours a week. Eventually, I realized I had to rebuild my whole personality. I replaced going to bars with going to the gym, and life is good, in ways I wouldn't have guessed at the time I was quitting. But still, it's useful to have a daily reminder of what I'm avoiding. Thanks, doppelganger. I hop on the metro. Down at the gym, it's deadlift time. There are plenty of articles online about how working out is right-wing, or at least makes you right-wing. Over on The Guardian, Zoe Williams complains that feeling fit lifts your mood and makes you feel like the master of your own destiny. Well, God forbid anyone should feel that way. Better to skip the gym and invent elaborate new forms of victimhood, I guess. At least that's what Zoe Williams from The Guardian would have you think. But I'm not going to get political today. I add a couple of plates to the barbell for a warm-up, then add a couple more, then add a couple more. In a way, I agree with the people who want to find something political in exercise. There's nothing democratic or egalitarian about deadlifting 120 kilos. It's just you versus the iron. Either you can do it or you can't. Today I can. Just barely. I haven't slept well the last 2 nights, and I'm a bit weaker than usual. My grip feels like it's failing on rep 2 with the heavy weight. Rather than drop the bar and tear the skin off my palms to get a 3rd rep, I swallow my pride and put it down as gently as I can. Disappointed by my subpar deadlift performance, I do 5 other exercises to compensate. By the time I walk out of the gym, I'm buzzing with endorphins. I practically float down the street, back to the metro. Here's one of the problems of 21st century life as I see it. You can make a mockery of religion and family and patriotism and hard work and discipline, but not believing in those things doesn't get rid of the need to believe in something. The whole is there, right in the center of the human spirit, and we all fill it one way or another. Take away the old-timey values and the sense of virtue, the unquestionable assumptions about what's right and wrong, and people will believe with religious fervor in veganism or yoga or politics. Maybe they become Bitcoin bros or AI evangelists. But the fact is, we're all worshiping something. In the book of Exodus, Moses goes up the mountain to get the 10 Commandments, and while he's away, the people don't know what to do. After a few days, they start to complain, and they ask his brother Aaron to make them a god to worship. Aaron obliges and makes them a golden calf. When Moses comes back down the mountain, he finds his people in a drunken orgy, worshiping an idol. 40 days without God, and they've turned to shiny objects and hedonism to fill the hole. All the Bible stuff used to seem stupid to me, but now I've been there, and I know exactly what Exodus chapter 32 is about. Lacking a higher power to focus the mind, it's about filling the God-shaped hole with sex, wine, and money. That's practically the title of my autobiography. I'm not even joking. Back in the day, I wrote several autobiographical articles on the blog, and part 2 was called Sex, Booze, and Phrasal Verbs. Phrasal verbs, of course, are a dorky English teacher thing, but that was how I made money. And lacking a higher power to believe in, I just filled the hole. One of the hard things to accept about the human condition is that you can get everything you want in life and then sit around hating yourself and wrecking your liver afterwards. If you do a close reading of the lives of successful people, you'll see just how common it is. In Exodus, Moses finds his people worshiping the golden calf, breaks the tablets with the 10 Commandments, and has the sons of Levi put 3,000 people to the sword, which honestly seems a bit extreme, but those were different times. Anyway, making points about the human condition by citing stories from the Old Testament is probably a political statement these days, so I'll stop. I'm not going to get political. Back at the house, I'm cooking some hake I impulse bought over the weekend. Hake is a tasteless white fish, but now that I'm only eating protein and vegetables, I'm fine with that. Protein is right-wing, obviously. Men on podcasts eat it, men like Joe Rogan. Therefore, it's right-wing. If you don't believe me, Google it. There are dozens of articles from respectable media outlets about this topic. But I'm not going to get political. I'm just trying to hit my macros. I open up my phone and see that I have a notification from Spotify. New album from Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. I have my doubts about that, but I click through and soon find myself listening to Lacrimosa, the last piece of music Mozart wrote before he died in 1791. It's part of a work called Requiem in D minor. I don't know why Spotify thinks I like Mozart, because I don't. But either way, I still have tears in my eyes while I'm standing in my tiny kitchen and cooking hake, a tasteless and right-wing white fish. After I eat, I pick up my Kindle and finish rereading George Orwell's essay, Inside the Whale. Although theoretically a review of Henry Miller's Tropic of Cancer, it's really an essay about politics and literature in the 1920s and 30s. Orwell has a lot to say about American artists in Paris, the annoying digital nomad/influencers of his day, and about how culture suffers when everything becomes political. He's the one I'm paraphrasing above about people needing something to believe in. Here's the original quote. But what do you achieve, after all, by getting rid of such primal things as patriotism and religion? You have not necessarily got rid of the need for something to believe in. The essay Inside the Whale also contains a paragraph I thought about a lot during peak woke and the pandemic. Quote, every communist is in fact liable at any moment to have to alter his most fundamental convictions or leave the party. The unquestionable dogma of Monday may become the damnable heresy of Tuesday, and so on. This has happened at least 3 times during the last 10 years. I guess the ability to change your opinions at the drop of a hat according to what's popular in your social group is a valuable survival reflex of some sort, but I don't seem to have it. Towards the end of Inside the Whale, Orwell has this little line about life during World War I. Quote, the truth is that in 1917 there was nothing that a thinking and sensitive person could do, except to remain human if possible. 100 and some years later, I feel the same way. The algorithms want to steal your soul and AI wants to take your job. The news is one tragedy after another. And all the quote-unquote smart people sit around mocking the idea of virtue and rejecting everything that used to give life meaning. What's a person to do? double down on being human, and maybe learn a trade. Around 6:30, Morena gets home from the office. She's tired, but tomorrow is a holiday, Good Friday. I hug her in the living room in front of our collection of gods. We've got Krishna, several Ganeshas, Buddha, not technically a god, but whatever, and a little silver Zeus I bought in Greece. We've also got Jesus, 2 piggy banks, and a tio de Nadal. It's a Catalan thing, long story. We all worship something, but it's important to note that we don't worship all things equally. I hug Morena and she nestles in my arms, and we just breathe for a minute. You wouldn't believe how much I love her. Unfortunately, loving your wife is also right-wing. A Substacker called Lyman Stone said it, not me. Loving your opposite-sex spouse is, in the year of our Lord 2025, a shockingly right-wing act. The rest of the article is paywalled, but it's not like it's hard to find essays about how marriage is a misogynistic institution and masculinity is toxic. But I'm not getting political today, remember? Morena stays home to relax. I want to get outside again before it's too dark. If tomorrow is Good Friday, that means today is Holy Thursday. Holy Thursday commemorates the Last Supper, the event at which Jesus washes his disciples' feet. He later passes around the bread, "Take and eat it, this is my body," and the wine, "Drink this, all of you, this is my blood." That's the blood of the new covenant, by which we're all to be forgiven. But a few more things have to happen first. Judas slips out to sell his guru for 30 pieces of silver. You probably know the rest of the story. Nothing that dramatic seems to be happening around my neighborhood this evening. I sit in the park as the sun sinks toward the horizon. There are dogs running around and kids playing. A couple of scrap collectors, man and wife, are leaning up against the old smokestack in the middle of the park. Their shopping carts full of junk are next to them, and they're having their own supper out of a rusty skillet, a big loaf of brown bread between them. After a few minutes, the woman gets up and washes the skillet in the fountain. Then she goes off to dig through the dumpsters. Her husband lays down on a piece of foam and tries to sleep. Kids come and go, and teenagers clinging to vapes, and old people hobbling on canes. Eventually the sun sets. A chill is in the air. I zip up my jacket and head home to my wife. All we can do today and always is remain human, if possible. That's about all I've got for today. Thank you for listening. I hope you have a great day wherever you are in the world. Happy Easter! I apologize. I wrote part of this on Holy Thursday, but also part of it on Good Friday, and you're not listening to it on either of those days. These things take some time to get out to the public. I'm recording this on Holy Saturday. Tomorrow is Easter Sunday, Domingo de Pascua. If you're listening to my bizarre musings these days, I am very grateful for you. Thank you very much for hanging in there. My life was a lot simpler when I could write lists of the top 10 tapas bars or something like that, but that's just not where my mind is at these days. So instead, we've got worshiping the golden calf and the God-shaped hole inside the human spirit. Anyway, all this religion stuff is a very big part of Spanish culture, and it's part that I ignored for about 20 years. So now we're talking about it. It is not all sunshine and tapas out here. Thanks again to Bob and all my donators and supporters from around the world. If you would like to donate, you can head over to expatmadrid.com/donate. I appreciate it. expatmadrid.com/donate. Any amount is fine. If you are coming to Barcelona anytime soon, also drop me a line. I'm happy to meet people, as long as we're in town at the same time. If you're looking for an off-the-beaten-path Spain experience, head on over to biketourinSpain.com. I've talked about them plenty here on the podcast, but it's really a unique experience if you don't mind exercising on vacation, and I don't. I've done 2 bike tours over there with biketourinspain.com. One is Extremadura. You can hear about that in episode 94. It's Spain's Wild West. It was incredible. Literally one of the best experiences I have had in over 20 years in Spain. The other was the route of Don Quixote around La Mancha, which is great if you're into literature or flatter terrain. Also very nice. Extremadura, I think I already mentioned, is episode 94, and the route of Don Quixote is episode 76 if you'd like to have a listen. Anyway, head over to biketourinspain.com and tell Raul that I sent you. Tell him that Daniel from the Spain to Go podcast sent you. He will appreciate it. You could also go to expatmadrid.com/walks and book a tour with Walks Tours. This is not as strenuous. It's not at all strenuous in theory. They organize walking tours of exceptional places in Spain and elsewhere in Europe. Just go to expatmadrid.com/walks and check out their different offers. They have a Sagrada Familia tour here in Barcelona if you want to check that out. They also have the Prado Museum tour, which I did a couple of years ago down in Madrid. They let you in an hour before the museum is open to the public, and you walk around with a guide and 5 or 6 other people. It's an incredible experience. So, expatmadrid.com/walks. If you're hungry, check out expatmadrid.com/devour. expatmadrid.com/devour. My friend Lauren over at Devour Tours organizes food tours, also in Madrid, Barcelona, Sevilla, San Sebastián, and other places. I can't keep up with where they are and where they are not at this point, but at least those 4 cities in Spain, I believe, plus others around Europe. They've got a lot going on in Italy and in France. expatmadrid.com/devour. They will take you on a walk around a historic area with a lot of restaurants, and they will explain some history. They'll also feed you. I did the Plaza Mayor tour in Madrid a few years ago. It was great. You can listen to my episode with Lauren here on the podcast. That is episode 115. I met Lauren a long time ago, and she's got quite a trajectory. So, expatmadrid.com/devour, DEVOUR. You can, as usual, follow me on YouTube. Just put Learn Spanish with Daniel into your YouTube search bar, and you will find me, Learn Spanish with Daniel. You could follow me on Instagram, the usual things. Send me a message or leave me a comment on any of these platforms. Please like and subscribe here on, wherever you are. This podcast is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. It's also on YouTube, Amazon Music, Pocket Casts, and things like that. I don't know. I think there's about a 90% chance that you're either on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. So leave me a review or a star rating and subscribe to be notified when I have a new episode. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you have a great day. Happy Easter. And if it's not Easter when you're listening to this, happy whatever day it is. I hope you're doing well wherever you are. From beautiful Barcelona, hasta la próxima. Bye.